Raider Nation, what is good, man? I hope all of you guys are having a great day out there. I hope you guys can all hear me. We have some great things to talk about today, man. Shout out to all of you guys that have left comments before the show even began. Robert, shout out to you. Adrian, shout out to you. Jesse, Rhoda, shout out to you, who's also a member, as is Todd Clements. Shout out to all of you guys, man. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate reading comments before the video even starts because the video hasn't started, right? But I want to just jump right into this, man, and I really want to get into basically the pressers that happened today. So if you guys haven't seen that, check that out after this video. But basically, we got 4 Raiders to basically talk Raider, and it was really the new guys, man. Soloman Thomas, John Brown, who else was it? Casey Heyward, and of course Kenyan Drake, right? So we got the 4 guys, the 4 new guys, and they all kind of talked and gave their thoughts and opinions. Soloman Thomas went first, then Casey Heyward, then Kenyan Drake, and lastly was John Brown. But it was interesting, man. The presser was really interesting. Let me know if you guys actually checked it out, if you guys tuned in. I know Todd was on it because I think I saw his live comment while the video was about to start. I was actually at the store waiting for the video to start, and then I had to drive, so I turned the video off. So I went back to rewatch that video. So let me know if you guys watched that video, but I want to jump into it because a lot of interesting things were said. First and foremost, Soloman Thomas was asked about Gus Bradley, and the question was a great question. Simple, right? What are your thoughts on Gus Bradley? So as simple as that. Soloman Thomas said he loves Coach Bradley. He says that he's full of energy. He's an amazing guy. He's an amazing coach. The way he describes the defense and teaches the defense is incredible. Breaking it down, making the defense understandable for everybody. What things could happen when we call the defense. Soloman Thomas seems very high on Gus Bradley, but here's the thing. This is not the first time that I've heard current players, talk highly of Gus Bradley. Even former players in the past have talked highly of Gus Bradley. And there was a statement that Soloman Thomas made specifically. He said the following. He said, what things could happen when we call the defense. And he was talking about how Gus Bradley explains to the players things that could potentially happen. Let me get this out of the way. It's causing some issues there. But Soloman Thomas said that Gus Bradley talks about the possible things that could happen while they're out there on defense. And that's very important because you guys all know Gus Bradley calls a ton of cover 3, and he does a lot of cover 1 man-to-man. But his primary base defense is cover 3, right? You get that post safety who's going to be Trayvon Merritt. He'll play deep. And then you'll have another safety, Johnathan Abram, in the box. Soloman Thomas said that Gus Bradley explains to us what we are about to see from the offensive perspective. And people have made this comment. They said things like, if Gus Bradley runs such a simple concept, if Gus Bradley runs such a simple defense, isn't that negative, right? Isn't that something that teams could easily take advantage of because they know exactly what's coming? That is technically true, but Gus Bradley would be a fool not to teach his players what's about to come, right? So, for example, if the defense lines up in a cover 3, they know that we're about to maybe get hit with the play action, and maybe they're going to try to hit their tight end right behind the hooks, right between the hooks and the curl flats or the curl hooks. And Gus Bradley's going to teach his linebackers what to do and what to expect. Teams are not going to run cover 2 beaters. They're not going to run, 2 men under, man-to-man beaters, right? Teams are going to run cover 3 beaters. So if you're able to teach your defense what to do in every single situation, and Soloman Thomas talks about it in his presser today, that's how you win, man, and that's how you get a defense to be successful. So I did find that interesting that Soloman Thomas gave his thoughts and opinions on that specifically. He was also asked, what do you think about the rookies? Like, are there any rookies that are sticking out to you? And he kept it with the defensive line. He mentioned Stales. He said Darius Stales looks hungry. He looks like he's one of those guys that wants to look. And this isn't the first time we've heard that, right? In the past, other guys have also mentioned Darius Stales, right? I think it was Cleveland or Max a couple weeks back or maybe last week. They talked a little bit about how Darius Stales looks hungry. He looks like he wants to win. He looks like he wants to be in the NFL. And obviously, as you guys know, Stales didn't get drafted primarily because of his size. But when it comes to actually playing the game of football, the guy's a pretty talented football player, right? So it was interesting to kind of hear Soloman Thomas talk a little bit about that. He also said Malcolm Kuntz looks elusive as a pass rusher. We all expected that, right? We all expected Malcolm Kuntz to be that guy that's, he's going to look good when it comes to pass rushing. People hit me up on Twitter saying, what do you think about Soloman Thomas in general? Like, do you think he makes the roster? Do you think he's a guy that's going to be on this team? And I will say this, right? In the past, I've said I don't think Soloman Thomas is going to have an impact for the Raiders. But I do think if Soloman Thomas turns his whole entire career around, this is the year, right? Typically, a player on his second team makes the biggest difference, right? His situation changes, the scheme changes. So if Soloman Thomas is going to be a guy who's going to have success, this is the year to prove it. Now, people have said, well, Soloman Thomas looks explosive. And Soloman Thomas has always looked explosive, right? Soloman Thomas is the guy that has always been, super athletic, super gifted. And that's why he was the third overall pick in the draft, right? But the reason why Soloman Thomas hasn't panned out is because he's never gotten his hands right. He's never been able to take that next step when it came to using his hands correctly. Either way, I want to know what you guys think, man. Do you guys think Soloman Thomas makes the roster? Do you guys think he doesn't make the roster? Todd Clement says Soloman is an upgrade from Hurst. It's make or break for Soloman. And I totally agree, man. I don't know if it's necessarily an upgrade. I kind of feel like they're kind of at the same level in the sense that, Hurst is probably a better pass rusher, but Hurst isn't as explosive. Soloman Thomas is more explosive. And Soloman Thomas definitely has the higher ceiling, right? And Hurst is probably a better football player now in terms of production. But overall, man, it's going to be interesting to kind of see what Soloman Thomas does. He was asked a couple other questions as well. And one of the things that I never really considered, and I guess this is probably my fault for really not considering it, is the fact that Soloman Thomas was hurt last year, right? Like he tore his ACL. And sometimes I feel like that could help a player, right? Like you sit back and now you have to watch from the outside in. You're not there every day. You're not practicing every day. You're not learning the game plan. Instead, you're kind of getting your craft together, right? You really need to, your explosiveness is going to come down a little bit. So you really have to take that next step in other parts of your game. So I hope Soloman Thomas can put it together because he's an explosive player, man. I really want to know how that kind of turns out. Film studies, you guys know that I'm very big on film studies. Soloman Thomas is a guy that I cannot wait to get my eyes on. Can't wait to get my hands on the tape. That one's going to be the most interesting part. The second guy in the presser that really came out was Casey Heyward. And he had some interesting things to say, man. I guess the first thing we'll talk about, we'll just go from kind of the questions he was asked. Casey Heyward was asked about his thoughts on Johnathan Abram. If you guys remember, I think last week when Johnathan Abram spoke, Johnathan Abram said Casey Heyward's been a huge help. I personally have been watching him and learning from him. He's a veteran. And today, Casey Heyward was asked to reflect on Johnathan Abram. And basically, he was asked what he thinks about Johnathan Abram and what he brings to the team. And he said the following, and I quote, "John has the potential to be a really great player, especially in this defense. I've seen some really good safeties in the defense that have made a lot of plays. I think he has the potential to be a really great in this defense. I see the leadership role he's taken on. I see similarities to some really good players I've seen in the past." End quote. And that is what Casey Heyward said of Johnathan Abram. Those are such high remarks to make. You guys know Casey Heyward has played with Derwin James and a couple other good players. He was even with the Green Bay Packers years back. And he had some high remarks for someone like Johnathan Abram. And you guys know this, right? You guys know that I've been a guy who's been super, super high on Johnathan Abram. I'm a guy who said I believe Johnathan Abram can be that top-tier football player. He can be that top-tier safety, all-pro level of player. And Casey Heyward said that he has the potential to be great. What do you guys think, man? Do you guys think Johnathan Abram has that potential? Do you guys think he has the potential to be great? Do you guys think he doesn't or he does? I think Johnathan Abram has so much potential. I think Johnathan Abram has that potential to be great. And it's not just, it's not that I want him to be great. It's not that I hope he's going to be great. I don't pray for it, right? It's that I've seen him on film. I've seen the things Johnathan Abram has done. Johnathan Abram lines up 15 yards away from the line of scrimmage. He'll come up and hit someone behind the line of scrimmage. And not everybody can make those plays, right? That takes a special type of player to be able to make those type of plays. Huge shout out to you, Jesse Rotos. I really appreciate you being a member. Thank you for the shout out. Same to you, Mike. I really appreciate you. But yeah, man, I'm excited to really see how Johnathan Abram shows up this year. It looks like Casey Heyward sees some similarities in him that he's seen in some really great players in the past. And Golden Knight here makes a pretty good point. Players aren't going to bash their teammates at this point. Right now, they all have to say positive things about each other. And that is a good point, right? That's 100% a good point. People aren't generally going to bash one another, right? That typically doesn't happen. But at the same time, you don't also go out and say, I think this guy is going to be great. He has that potential, because he was also asked about Trayvon, Mullen, and Arnette. So Casey Heyward was asked about his thoughts on Mullen and Arnette. When he talked about Mullen, he said something to the tune of, Mullen took a big step last year. I know Mullen wants to be an all-pro, Pro Bowl type of player. He kept it short, and that was kind of it. That's all he really said about Mullen. But then when it came to Arnette, like, he went on about Arnette. He said, when I see Arnette, he just took that step mentally. I know they didn't have veterans last year, but I think me and Carl will help. He's been soaking everything he can, and he's doing a great job at it. I think he's going to be a really good in this system as well. I think the sky's the limit for him. And again, when I heard Casey Heyward's remarks between the two guys, I personally felt like he was talking a little bit more positively about Arnette than he was about Mullen. But he did say that he thinks Mullen has the mindset that Mullen wants to be an all-pro / Pro Bowl type of player. And that's great, because if you don't have that mindset as a player, if your mindset is not, I want to be a superstar, I want to be a Pro Bowler, I want to be an all-pro player, you'll never get it, right? It's the same mindset of saying, hey, I want to be wealthy in life, right? Or, hey, I want this in life, right? If you don't set that goal and set it to a high standard, you'll never achieve it, right? And I'm personally a huge believer of that. And that's one of the reasons why I also think Johnathan Abram has the mentality and the swagger to be great, because he plays like it. He plays with this mindset. Either way, Casey Heyward talked about Abram, Arnette, and Mullen, and it sounds very promising, man. Personally, I think if Gus Bradley can develop these guys just a little bit, get them to play within a system, I think the sky's the limit, man, just as Casey Heyward said. And Heyward also said he thinks Abram is a good fit for the system, which is interesting, right? But the last thing Casey Heyward said, and this was a question that Vincent Bossignor from the Las Vegas Journal-Review asked. He flat out asked, man, and this is the thing that really ticks me off with some of these reporters. Some of these reporters ask such stupid ass questions, like, just ask the guy what he does in practice. Just ask him, are you playing slot or are you playing on the outside? And Vinny did it, man. Vinny asked a great question. He asked Casey Heyward straight up. He said, are you playing on the outside or are you playing on the slot? Where are you playing? Other guys are beating around the bush. Other guys are asking random questions. Vinny asked him, and basically Casey Heyward said that he basically is not going to be playing the slot. He said, no, I just have been playing on the outside. I don't really know too much on the inside. That's it, man. That, it's such an important statement, and here's why, right? I just talked about this. We just signed the guy, what's his name? The corner Wilson from the Falcons. We just signed him, and the thing is he plays slot, and we weren't sure. Like, I went on a couple of live shows, Raider Hunt show, Raid the Tape, Docs. I spoke to him recently as well. We talked a little bit about where we think Casey Heyward's going to fit in, where Arnette's going to fit in. And most people do agree that Trayvon Mullen will be the starting left corner, and I 100% agree with that. But we weren't really sure who's going to play the slot, who's going to play the right corner. Most people interchangeably said that Casey Heyward or Arnette one will play the slot, the other will play the right corner position. And I've stuck with it. I don't think either of those guys play in the slot. It doesn't make sense. You don't take an outside corner and just throw him in the slot, because when you're on the outsides, you have the boundaries helping you out, right? When you're on the inside, it makes it that much harder. You don't have that. A receiver can run right, left, he can run it anywhere he wants, and you're basically chasing him around the whole entire field. If you're a left corner, the left side of you is the boundary, right? Like there's nowhere the receiver can't run that way. But yeah, so Casey Heyward was asked if he plays in the slot, if he practiced at the slot during OTAs, and he said he hasn't. He said he isn't playing that slot position, which begs me to ask, who's playing slot? Like, is Arnette playing that slot position? I would love to ask him. I would love for someone to reach out, and hopefully they do one of these pressures with him, and they, if Vinny's there, which I know he'll always be there, he'll ask, man. Vinny's the type of guy. So shout out to Vinny for getting that information out, because it's a small question, but it's a lot of information. Obviously, we signed the corner from the Falcons today, who I think could potentially play the slot, but he's 31 years old, so that's really not a long-term solution. That's probably more of just helping the corners we already have maybe learn, maybe develop a little bit. And I'm pumped up to really see what's going to happen there. Either way, I think ultimately the Raiders will figure it out. Gus Bradley will figure it out. I think we'll play a lot of big nickel as well, which is basically two safeties in there in the box, and obviously the post safety. So you'll have a total of three safeties on the field. I think we'll play a ton of that, man. I don't know if we even really need a true slot guy. I think we'll play a lot of big nickel. Honestly, I would play big nickel most of the time, to be honest, because Gillespie, Carl Joseph, Johnathan, Abram, they all can play in the box. Trayvon Merrick can even play in the box if needed. And Merrick played a lot of man-to-man coverage in college. So playing box safety on the line of scrimmage over tight ends, over slot receivers, we got like 3 or 4 guys that can do it, right? So I'm really pumped up about the depth and kind of where this roster is right now. I think the sky's the limit, man. I really do. And before we move on, I want to just answer a question from Hector. He said, are there any film studies coming up? You guys let me know what you guys want to see, man. I don't have anything planned, but typically I will do a film study that I'll prepare for like Saturday morning, and I'll release it Saturday morning. This past week, I had a film study of Denzel Good. The week before, I can't remember. I think I did like third down, red zone, or something like that. Let me know what you guys want to see, man. If there's some film studies you guys request, I will break it down, man. If you guys know that my film studies are much different than someone like Raiders Film. Raiders Film, I know for a fact, puts a ton of effort into his film studies. And I do too, but mine are more like, I'll just talk for 40 minutes straight. And I know sometimes that could probably get boring. So, but yeah, man, anytime you guys want to see anything specifically, you guys let me know, man. I might do a film study of our corners, Arnette and Mullen, see if they've ever played in the slot and kind of look at those snaps specifically. I might even do one of the new corner, man. So there's definitely a lot that I could do. But I want to jump forward, man. And Kenyan Drake also had his presser today, obviously 4 guys. Kenyan Drake's presser was a little bit different. It wasn't as entertaining for me personally, same with John Brown. But they were asked some good questions. Vinny asked Kenyan Drake about the Raiders' struggles in the red zone. And he also asked what he felt that they could do, right? Like, what does his skill set do to help the Raiders in the red zone? As you guys know, we kicked 35 field goals last year. That's a lot of field goals, man. What is that? 105 points, I think. If you convert, just 10 from field goals to touchdowns, look at how many more points you would have, right? That's 35 more points. So that's a lot of points over like a 16-game season. It could definitely lead to wins, more wins. But basically, when Vinny asked Kenyan Drake about what he could bring with his skill set, he said that, and I quote, just being a playmaker, the defense has to cover out of the backfield, or lining up out wide, being another guy who can stretch the defense. And I think that's such an important part of his game, right? One of the most important things, one of the reasons why the Raiders struggled in the red zone last year was because we didn't have a guy. We didn't have a true guy, a running back that could beat someone, right? And I'll give you guys an example. One of the things Christian McCaffrey does all the time, and I know Christian McCaffrey, he's the best running back in the league, but one of the things he does all the time is they'll line him up in the backfield. They'll put 3 receivers to the right. They'll put a tight end to the left. And then they'll take Christian McCaffrey, put him in motion, and put him all the way to the outside. And they'll know if a linebacker goes with him as man-to-man coverage. If it's corner, it's zone. And the Raiders do the same concept, but here's the difference, right? Christian McCaffrey will beat his guy. Whatever type of route it is, he'll burn his guy. Either he'll go deep or he'll come across the field and he'll beat his guy. When the Raiders put Josh Jacobs in motion, oftentimes he just stands there or he'll run deep because he's not a good route runner, right? And Josh Jacobs is not going to develop that part of his game anytime soon, right? Josh Jacobs is still focused on different things. At the same time, Kenyan Drake's different. Kenyan Drake has caught 50 plus passes. I think 2 or 3 years, he's had 1,000 receiving yards, over the course of like 2 or 3 years. Kenyan Drake is an actual player who could potentially make a difference. Think about this scenario. You have Foster Moreau and Darren Waller in line at the tight end positions. You have Bryan Edwards and Henry Ruggs or Hunter Renfrow, whoever you want. You have Derek and Shotgun and Kenyan Drake next to him. Then you switch the whole entire formation up. You put Foster Moreau all the way onto the right. You put Kenyan Drake in the slot. You put Ruggs and Renfrow on the opposite side, and you put Waller next to him. How do you defend that, right? Because Kenyan Drake can run routes. Kenyan Drake is actually good at beating linebackers or safeties off the line of scrimmage. That is part of Kenyan Drake's game that he's developed already. He was asked a question about basically what the difference is between lining up at wide receiver or lining up at running back and running routes, and kind of if he felt he was good at that. And I didn't know this about Kenyan Drake. I hadn't scouted him yet, but he said that he played a ton of wide receiver at Alabama, but he also said that in high school he played a lot of wide receiver and running back, and he actually was not recruited as a true running back. He said in high school he was not a true running back, and he wasn't recruited to Alabama as a true running back. He was recruited as an athlete. And that makes a big difference, right? When you're recruited as a running back, it's because you're going to play running back. Derrick Henry was a running back, although I think he played quarterback in college or in high school as well, but he was never going to do that in the NFL. But Derrick Henry was recruited as a running back. He knew that when he got to Alabama, he's going to play running back. Same with Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs was recruited to Alabama to play running back, although they wanted Josh Jacobs to also play the Kenyan Drake role. Which is also the role that Alvin Kamara was recruited to Alabama before he transferred. He was going to play that same role as well. It's a role that Alabama has designed, right? They get their running backs to play slot, run good routes. And Kenyan Drake did it well at Alabama. He did it well in the NFL. And I do think that he's going to be able to do that same thing for the Raiders. John Gruden needs guys that are going to make a difference, not just from their natural position, right? For example, John Gruden needs Darren Waller not to only line up in line as a true tight end, but he needs him to line up in the slot and out wide and make plays. Hunter Renfrow, we need him to line up in the slot, but we need him to line up on the outside as well. Bryan Edwards, same thing, outside, inside. Maybe you line him up right over a defensive end, right? Not with his hand in the dirt, but like standing up right over a tight end or over a defensive end where he kind of looks like a tight end. We're going to need him to do that. At the same time, we need Kenyan Drake to line up at running back, out wide, and in the slot and be effective. I think that's the difference between the Raiders. And when I was doing my third down breakdowns, when I was watching the film, looking at some of our red zone issues, the thing I would notice over and over again was Hunter Renfrow would get bracketed, Darren Waller would get bracketed, and then Jason Witten couldn't get off the line of scrimmage. Like a linebacker or safety would press him, and he wouldn't be able to get off the line of scrimmage. When Henry Ruggs doesn't have 70 yards of open field, right, when he's in the red zone and only has 10 yards, a corner would press him and he wouldn't be able to get off the line of scrimmage. And it would just make it hard because guys weren't able to separate. And it would make it hard for Derek Carr. That's why I was so high on Julio Jones. That's why I wanted Julio Jones so much for the Raiders, because our receivers were not able to separate. And that's such an important concept. And I think that is one of the reasons why the Raiders struggled at times, right, in the red zone. Either way, I still think the Raiders are going to continue to have some red zone issues, to be honest, because I don't think our wide receivers are there. I think our wide receivers are still going to be, they're going to be pressed. And of course, that's going to also depend on Bryan Edwards. If Bryan Edwards takes that next step, if Bryan Edwards is able to beat guys off the line of scrimmage, that's going to open everything up. But Bryan Edwards has to get better. And obviously, there's the picture of him looking super ripped, right? I saw that picture. I know you guys all saw that picture too. But being super ripped doesn't necessarily translate into the NFL. So, again, I do think the Raiders are going to have some red zone issues unless Bryan Edwards gets it together. And if that happens, I'm going to be disappointed, man, because we could have had Julio Jones, right? I want to give a shout out to Kevin Lurker. Thank you for being a member of this channel. If you guys are not members, consider subscribing and consider becoming a member. There's premium content that I put out there, although I'll be honest, it's not a ton. But there is some stuff that I put out there. At the same time, there's there's other things that you guys can get as members. If you guys want to follow me on Instagram or Twitter and DM me and we can go back and forth, I do that for members as well. If you guys need all 22 film, I got that for members as well. Just hit me up on social media. I want to give a huge shout out to Ben Bad, man. Huge shout out to you, Ben, for the $5 super chat. Again, if you guys have questions, comments, super chats, and I will always respond to every single super chat. Thank God it's Hump Day. Raider lot lives on. Absolutely, man. Hump Day, man. It's probably the best day of the week, right? Because now it's like that downward part of the week, and the weekend's about to start. Yeah, man. Thank you again for the super chat. But let's jump forward, man, and let's get into John Brown. John Brown also was asked specifically about the receivers. He was asked a little bit about Henry Ruggs and Bryan Edwards. He was kind of asked about his thoughts on Edwards and Ruggs. He said about Ruggs, he said that he can dominate the game. He can take over the game, which are some crazy words to say, right? To say someone can dominate and take over the game, that's such a crazy thing to say, right? Because we haven't really seen it from Henry Ruggs. I mean, I guess maybe we have, right? I think that Chiefs game where we took the deep shot to kind of win the game, go all in or go all out, and there was a pass interference from the Chiefs. I guess that was one of those moments. At the same time, the Jets game, he won us the game. Obviously, Carr made a beautiful throw, and he also stepped up in the pocket. Everybody picked up the blitz and everything perfectly. I guess he has kind of been a game changer at times, but just imagine if Henry Ruggs takes, imagine if he takes like a 25% leap in his game, which could happen, right? From a first year to a second year guy. Henry Ruggs would be a difference maker, man. And I really think it's really going to show on the field this year. It's really going to translate to wins and losses. John Brown also said of Bryan Edwards something to the tune of how aggressive he is, how he kind of plays the game, just being physical. And we need that. We 100% need that. We need a guy who can be physical. We need a guy who can take over the game from that standpoint specifically. I appreciate the super chat. John Woods, you said you rule, enough said. Shout out to you, man. I appreciate every single one of you guys that tune in. And I see your comment, 808. You said do a practice squad video. Absolutely, man. I will definitely do that. Tomorrow, I will probably have a video regarding OTAs. I think there's some more film and footage out there. I know a couple of people have been posting clips on Twitter. There's some YouTube clips out there, right? The typical guy, Ron, I don't know his last name. He puts the same films out all the time. I'll be breaking down some of those. I actually watched one of them. I don't know if it was the D lineman or the O lineman. I can't remember, but there were some good clips out there. There's some good information, some good things. Yeah, man. I hope you guys enjoyed the day. I know this was a quick video. I kind of want to just go through the presser. Let me know in the comments below how you guys feel, man. I hope you guys all have a great day. Make sure to hit that thumbs up button. It really does help me. Subscribe if you guys are not subscribed. I really, really, really do appreciate every single one of you guys. Hump Day, man. Hope you guys all have a great one, and I will see you guys next time with another video.